Get Warrior Tough, Mental Training 101 with Andrew Wittman and Dutch Coleman. And now back to Andrew and Dutch.
I'd like listening to that bumper music, man. I haven't heard it for a while. It's like listening to an oldie. You know what I mean?
But goodie.
But oldie, but goodie. Yeah. I was saying something the other day to my little girl, and I said something. I said, hey, that's an oldie. She said, what, from like the 80s? I said, hey, you watch your mouth. Oldies is 50s and 60s music, not the 80s. All right, so anyway. So before the break, Dutch, we were talking about how dopamine is released and happiness is released when you're achieving, when you're going after the goal. Now, here's the thing, and again, the human, we get very desensitized, and we get we turn stuff into autopilot programming pretty quickly. Habits, I'll say it like that, because we know this. We're creatures of habit. And so habits form. So when you begin, we've been taught since we were kids to start accomplishing things, right? Even if it's just participation, you get the trophy or the certificate. There's graduations from kindergarten now. I didn't know you could graduate from kindergarten. For us, it was just like, hey, good, you went to first grade, right? You don't get naps anymore, right? And you're going to school full time. But anyway, so this is what we do. We've built our society so that there's a habit of you have to achieve something. You have to, even if it's worthless. And that's what happens is we have this habitual pursuit of trying to be successful. And it's frustrating for a lot of people because they don't ever reach that success. And when they do, they're still unhappy.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you right now, as we talked about before, it's not worth it. You know, the things that we see on TV, the models that get promoted the most, they probably have the least value as far as worth is concerned. Now, we're not saying those people aren't successful, that those people haven't reached their goals, but we're saying the difference is we're trying to focus on the people who are actually happy. So
and we're not goals. We need both,
right,
not just one or the other, right? Because then there's other people that they're just like, well, I'm just happy right here, and that's what the homeless people will tell you they're happy. They have nothing. They can help no one. Right, so you're happy but no success. On the other end, we got successful people that aren't happy. The sweet spot is that you want to be successful, accomplish things, and still be fulfilled. I'll say fulfilled instead of just happy, because happy seems fleeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're amongst the people that we're even talking about, it's good if they had knowledge of where they were. Some of them don't know where they are. Some of them don't realize that they're unhappy. Yeah. They have all these symptoms and all these different things going on in their life, and they don't realize that, look, you're simply not happy. You have all these things that you thought you always wanted, but we need to invest in ourselves and find out what we really want, what we really need. We need to find all these things out and then move from there. So even somebody who seems ultra successful but not happy can then say, okay, what will make me happy? And again, we're going to talk about some of these things in terms of happiness and being successful and how you kind of mold those things together.
Right. And so that's what the researchers from Harvard Business School did. They studied this thing that we're talking about. They interviewed and assessed professionals who had attained great success, who everybody on the planet would say, yes, they were success. So we looked at them, then they studied them, they interviewed them, and they assessed them. And then their aim was to break down what these exceptional professionals did differently to achieve both long-lasting success and fulfillment. So you know how Dutch Coleman always says you can have it all. These people had it all. They had everything that they wanted, and they were still fulfilled. They had all the loving relationships. They had all the great, we call it life on all 8 cylinders, here at Get Warrior Tough. But they had it all. And then the ones that didn't have it all, they separated them out, and then here's what was different, but the ones that did. The ones that had it all, the people that were both successful and fulfilled over a long term, they were intentional in how they structured their activities around 4 major areas. This is where the note paper should come out. You want to take notes, here's how you should be intentional about structuring your activities around these 4 major areas. First off was happiness, and that they pursued activities that produced pleasure and satisfaction for them. And this is what I call being passionate about something. When you figure out what that thing is that you love doing, and it produces pleasure and satisfaction in you, it generates happiness, you should go do those activities. They have to find a way in. So if you hate your job, you need to like find what is the stuff that gives you pleasure and satisfaction. You want to be successful, but you hate what you're doing. Do you really think that even if you did be successful at it, but you hate what you're doing, if you hit what quote success, is that fulfillment and happiness going to come with it?
You know, the one of the main things in that sentence is they pursue. They pursue. It means they don't sit there and wait for it. They don't wait for happiness to knock on their door. They pursue it. Pursue. So please circle that word, pursue. You got to get up, as a old rapper used to say in the 90s, you got to get up, get out, and get something. Get up, get out, and get something.
Yeah. You got to go after it. All right, so that was number one. Number two, achievement. They pursued activities that achieved tangible, measurable results. So, and I'll say it like this. I got to say it like this, Dutch. Not that you're looking at the result. You're not focused on the results. But when you pursue something, it has to be tangible. Because I'll have people like, well, I need to lose a few pounds. That is not tangible. You've already failed before you started. If you speak in generalities and you can't measure or grab onto something specific, what you're doing is giving yourself wiggle room, and you will not achieve anything. Because how do you know if you achieved it or not if you can't say this is what it is?
And I'll tell you another thing. When you say tangible results, we're talking about things that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can measure. You know, different. You know, not something in your mind, not concepts, but actual measurable things.
Yeah, there's no moral victories. Well, we got a moral victory. No, you lost.
Right.
You know, I'm rich in love. Can you measure that? Is that tangible? I mean, seriously. See, when people couch their stuff in that, you're setting yourself up for no success and no fulfillment. Either have success and no fulfillment, or what you're trying to do is skip the success and lie to yourself and say you're fulfilled. And I say lie to yourself. I know that sounds harsh, Dutch, but I've done this experiment too. Where people is like, well, we're just rich in family and rich in love. We don't need anything. So then let's do an experiment. You give me all your money for the next 2 weeks. You go without any money. You give it to me. I'll hold it for you. And you be rich in love and rich in family. I've never had one person go for that, ever.
And I tell you, it's not belittling your experiences or your thoughts and your love for that matter. But we're talking about, again, tangible results. If I'm rich in love, then I can use that love as a resource to build some tangible things, right? I can use, so it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop in the metaphysical. It doesn't stop in your mind. It has to be something, because if you're talking about your dopamine levels, you're talking about all these different things being able to be sustained, because those things dissipate. But just think about if you built an orphanage, right? For a group home for wayward kids or kids that needed families or love. That's sustainable. That's tangible. That's something that's going to be there. Every time you see that, every time you look at that, every time you look at the children that you've helped, you can sustain a certain level of dopamine in your body. It's not going to dissipate because you did something that just flew for a second.
It's long term. It's enduring.
Exactly. It was tangible. So you use that love that you had. Yeah, I'm rich in love. Now I'm going to use that to build things that are rich in love, tangible things that are rich in love, that are sustainable, that are measurable, that will last beyond the few seconds where it dissipates, where you forget that you even did it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about tangible things.
And then the next thing, that rolls right into the next thing, which is significance. They pursued activities that made a positive impact on the people who matter most to them. Absolutely.
Again, we're not belittling or taking away from anything that you've done or that you've thought. We're merely helping you identify and recognize the difference between successful people and successful people that are actually happy. And then you can choose whichever one you want. You can still choose to be successful and unhappy. We're not judging you for that.
You could do that.
We're telling you that the science says that there's two different areas. Now, all of them fall into the happy category. I mean, to the successful category. They all fall in the same category of successful. But what we're trying to explain to you is that there's been identified by science, by research, that there's two categories within the successful category. One is happy and one is not happy. And so we're telling you that you can find your place in either. And we're telling you how to find your place in the happy and how to find your place in the not so happy.
Yeah, I mean, that breaks it down pretty daggone good, Dutch.
Without judgment.
Judgment. No, there's no, we don't, I mean, you can do whatever you want, man. I mean, I love you. I mean, I'm not going with you because I'd rather be happy and successful. And then the fourth thing is legacy, is that they pursued activities through which they could pass their values and knowledge down to others.
Which may be and none of them are more important than the other. But for me, this hit home. Mm-hmm. When you have it long lasting and something that's going to last beyond you, man, that's more powerful than anything.
Oh, and I'm with you because how long is what's my target, my ultimate target? What is it? How many years?
300-year plan. You got a 300-year plan.
Right, because it's got to be passed down. And it's my knowledge, it's my values, I'm passing it down. And so I'm with you. And all those other things, it all builds on all those other things build on one another. Like you said, not one's more important, but
I know we're coming up on a break, so I got about 30 seconds, but I wanted to say this. Happiness can be fleeting. Now, we don't want it to be. We want to be. When we put all these things together, nothing's fleeting. But this is why one of these things alone doesn't work. Happiness alone doesn't work. Achievement alone doesn't work because that can fall. Significance alone doesn't work because it can be significant for a moment.
Right.
But when you tie into the legacy, when you tie that into all of this, then you're letting you know that all those things that you built upon were not fleeting. They were not for a moment. They did not dissipate and fade away. It was for a legacy event. It was for something that's going to last forever.
And that's the real key to it is long term, something enduring, something that lasts beyond just that initial buzz of, oh, look, we won the whatever. Even the national championship, that wears off. Ask all the Alabama fans who lost it this year but won it last year. Mm-hmm. They're not happy, right? It's not lasting. All right, so we're up on the break, Dutch?
Yes, sir.
All right, listen to the Get Warrior Tough radio show with Dutch and Andrew. We'll be right back.